So you've seen the title, Legs Explained, let's get straight into it. So at the front of your thighs, you've got the quadriceps or the quads, and their main job is to extend the knee or straighten the leg. And to train your quads effectively, I'd recommend doing at least 1 to 2 squat movements per week, for example, front squats or back squats, and 1 to 2 lunge type movements per week. So any type of single leg exercise, for example, forward lunges or reverse lunges. And for both of these exercises, you're going to be doing 3 to 4 hard sets each. At the back of the thigh, you have your hamstrings, and their main jobs are to extend the hip, or in other words, to move your torso from a bent forward position to an upright position. Exercises to work this include RDLs or deadlifts. So your hamstrings do also flex the knee or bend the leg, and you can work this in any type of leg curl movement, so that can be a lying or a seated leg curl. And for overall hamstring training, I recommend having 2 hip hinges per week, along with 1 to 2 leg curling movements per week. So then next up, we got the glutes. The biggest, most visible part of the glutes is the gluteus maximus, and its main job is to extend the hip. Again, it works with the hamstring to move your torso from a bent forward position to an upright position. Your glutes will get plenty of work from your hip hinge, squatting, and lunging movements as well. It's very important to prioritize your compound exercises if you're looking to develop your glutes. Those type of 10-minute band glute workouts you see on the internet, they can be good as like a finisher, but the main meat of your glute training should come from your hip hinges, lunges, and your squat movements. Alright, cool, you know the drill. Gonna go over some exercises now, starting with the quads. Basic squats. First squat I'm gonna go through is the barbell back squat. Many consider it the king of exercises. And to be honest, they do have a strong case for that as well. It's gonna work your quads, your glutes, your abs and glute medius are also gonna be active to help with balance and stability. You wanna set the barbell to around shoulder height. As you get under the bar, you want to squeeze your shoulder blades together. What this does is it helps create a shelf for the bar to rest securely on your back. Now, the position at which you lay the bar will affect the muscle emphasis. I recommend just choosing a bar position that's comfortable for you and stick with it. For a high bar squat, you'd rest the bar higher up on your back, around your traps or your shoulders. Now, this can be considered a quad biased squat just because you're in a more upright position and you have more knee flexion involved. You can also have a low bar squat where you're resting the bar a bit lower down on your back, on your rear delts. When you're squatting here, you will have a bit more of a forward torso lean, so there'll be a bit more of a hip extension component, which will start to engage your glutes more. Most people are able to lift slightly more on low bar squats than high bar squats. Is one better than the other? I'd argue not to a significant degree. For high bar squats, you might be able to get more out of less weight. However, again, choose a variation that works for you. Both squat variations are going to work your quads and your glutes to a significant degree. Use your legs to drive out the bar from the rack, and then you're going to take a couple steps back and adopt a roughly shoulder width stance with your toes pointed outwards slightly. Now, when it comes to the foot stance with the squat, over time you might have to play around with the stance width and the foot positioning to find what's most comfortable for you. You want to be able to find a position that will allow you to hit depth. When I say hit depth, I mean have your thigh parallel or slightly below parallel with the ground when you squat down. Again, this is something you have to experiment with. Then what you want to do is you want to take a deep breath and brace your core. This is going to help protect your back. Then you're going to sit back and bend your knees at the same time. Imagine you're sitting down into a kid's chair that's behind you. So you're squatting down into a low chair until your thigh is parallel or slightly below parallel with the ground. You want to come down as far as is comfortable for you, but ideally your thighs should be at minimum parallel with the ground. So when you're at the bottom of the rep, you want to push yourself up and drive your hips forward at the same time. And you're going to repeat this for 4 to 6 or 5 to 8 reps. Common mistakes with squats include obviously not squatting to depth. Half reps do not count since you're not getting the full benefit of the exercise here. You're cutting the range of motion short for your quads here. If you do struggle to hit depth without having your heels leaving the ground, that suggests that you might have poor ankle mobility. So what you can do is rest your heels on those 2 plates. This will allow you to hit depth with less ankle mobility demands. However, in the long term, you should be able to work on your ankle mobility to improve it gradually over time. So next up, we've got front squats. These are a very important accessory for Olympic lifters. It's actually my personal favorite, and I've started practicing it recently. It might be quite uncomfortable and there is a bit of an adjustment period, but once you get used to it, you'll fall in love with it. Well, maybe. So when you're setting up, again, set the bar up at around shoulder level. This time you're going to hold the bar in front of you. And I must note there is a bit of a demand of wrist mobility. So before doing front squats, you might want to develop your wrist mobility first. So then you're going to rest the bar just behind your front delts, around your collarbone area. The bar should make light contact with your neck. And then you want to have proud, pompous posture. So stick your chest up. That's going to help you stay upright. and your elbows should be right forward. And you're gonna hold the bar with 2 to 3 fingers, is up to you. 2 fingers requires less wrist mobility, but again, choose what feels better for you. So then you're gonna step out with the bar, holding it in that position, making sure you're keeping your upper back nice and upright. You're gonna take a deep breath, brace your core, and again, sit back and bend your knees as if you're sitting into a low chair. And then when you get to the bottom, you're gonna push yourself back up and drive your hips forward and breathe out at the top. And this exercise is really good because it reveals any weaknesses that you might have, because there's a lot of stability demands from your upper back and also your abs. So it can reveal to you if you have any weaknesses in your upper back or in your core. One thing to note, remember, is you need to keep your chest upright. If the bar falls forward, you know you're doing it wrong. Because the weight is in front of you, you are gonna have a bit more of an upright posture compared to a barbell back squat. It's gonna be even more quad biased than a high bar squat. Again, with the stance width, choose a stance width that's comfortable for you, along with a toe angle that's comfortable for you as well. And again, for this, you can do 4 to 6 or 5 to 8 reps. Finally, the easier squat variation, which is a good variation for beginners who are learning how to squat, is the goblet squat. Now, before you laugh at this, if you're someone coming from a sedentary lifestyle with little to no activity at all, this could be a good variation for you to just learn how to squat. Some people have the idea that the barbell squat is the only squat that you should do. Now, while I do think it will be beneficial for every trainee to transition to a barbell squat just because it's such a good movement, if you're just starting out, goblet squats can be a good movement to just learn how to squat. Squatting is a fundamental movement pattern. You've been squatting since you were a baby. Anyway, grab any sort of dumbbell or a kettlebell. It can even be a backpack if you're training at home. You're gonna hold it by your chest. Again, choose a suitable stance width and a suitable toe angle. You can start off with shoulder width and your toes at a slight outward angle, then experiment over time to see what's most comfortable for you and to see what helps you hit depth. Sit back and bend your knees at the same time until your thigh is parallel or slightly below parallel with the ground. It's up to you. Then you're gonna drive yourself up by extending your knees and driving your hips forward, keeping your core tight, breathing out at the top. Repeat this for 8 to 12 reps. All right, so next up we've got lunges. So first we've got traditional stationary lunges. These are pretty simple. You can either do these forward or backward. So for the forward lunge, you're gonna stand up with your feet shoulder width apart and you're gonna hold a dumbbell at either side. You can also do this with body weight if it's too challenging for you. If you are using weight, hold a dumbbell in each hand, and then what you're gonna do, standing with your feet shoulder width apart, keeping your core braced, take a deep breath. You wanna take a big stride forward and bend both of your legs until your front thigh is parallel or slightly below parallel with the ground and your back leg forms a 90-degree angle. Then you're gonna push off from your front foot, I must emphasize front foot, and you're gonna push yourself back into the starting position, and you're gonna repeat this for the other leg as well. Good rep ranges for these are 8 to 12 or 12 to 15 reps. If you do have healthy knees, it's okay for your knee to go over the toes. If your knees are something that do bother you, reverse lunges may be something that's easier on your knees. So again, the similar form cues would apply, except you're gonna be lunging in a backwards direction. So you're gonna shift one leg back and you're gonna, again, push off the front leg and bring your back leg forward again and repeat for 8 to 12 or 12 to 15 reps per leg. Next up for lunge movements, we've got step ups. You can choose to alternate between legs or you can do one leg at a time. You want to set a platform up so that the top of the platform is in line with at least your hips or slightly above. Push yourself up with your front leg, lightly touch the platform with your back leg as well, just to help it balance, and let yourself come back down. Then you have a choice of alternating between both legs or completing all the reps with a single leg at a time. Get good rep ranges for these, 12 to 15 or 8 to 12 reps per leg. And last of the lunge movements, we've got Bulgarian split squats. Now this exercise is miserable and it's gonna bully you, but it reaps great rewards. You're gonna set up a platform again that's around in line anywhere from your knees to your hips, it's up to you. Just set it at a height that will allow you to have your thigh parallel or slightly below parallel with the ground when you go down. Stand with your legs touching the platform, then stride one foot forward and rest your other foot on the platform. Then you're gonna squat yourself down with that single leg until your thigh is parallel or slightly below parallel with the ground and push yourself up, making sure you're keeping the core tight throughout the rep. It can be quite awkward to balance at first. A good trick to do is focus on a stationary object. And you're gonna repeat this for 8 to 12 or 12 to 15 reps per leg. As mentioned before, it can really help practicing lunge type movements just because they help with overall balance and stability. It's good for hip health and it can help you exert more force when you're running. If you're a runner or a sprinter, you wanna do your lunges. Next up, we've got hip hinges, starting off with the conventional deadlift. There's controversy as to whether or not a conventional deadlift is useful, but I do think it is quite useful for overall general strength development just because you're activating such a large amount of muscle mass at the same time. Also, you're practicing picking up heavy objects in a safe way. You wanna be able to pick the bar up with a neutral spine, so make sure the plates that you use are of appropriate height. Then you're gonna start lining up the bar with your midfoot. You don't wanna have it too far bar in front of you, otherwise your lower back will round from the get-go. Then you want to shift your hips back while keeping your chest up. This is going to help you maintain a neutral spine. You want to do this while keeping the legs straight or with a slight bend until you feel a full stretch in your hamstrings. After this, you're going to bend your legs, keeping that neutral back position until your shins touch the bar. Then you're going to grip the bar with a double overhand grip just outside of your legs. Your legs will be at a shoulder width stance for this. Shift your shoulders back. You want to breathe in at the bottom, keeping your core nice and tight. Very important to brace your abs with this to help protect your lower back. Then you're going to push off the ground as if you're doing a leg press. You want to really activate your glutes. Lift with your legs on the deadlift. So you're going to push off the ground and explode your hips forward into the bar. And you're going to breathe out at the top of the movement. And you're going to lower the bar under control and repeat this for 4 to 6 or 5 to 8 reps. Next up, we have Romanian deadlifts. The setup is going to be very similar to a conventional deadlift. So you're going to start off by conventionally deadlifting the bar off the floor. Again, if you want to rewatch the conventional deadlift form, have a look at that. And then this time, you're going to shift your hips back, maintain almost a constant leg length. Your legs are going to be almost straight, but they're going to have a slight bend in them. You're going to shift your hips back while keeping your chest up until you feel a full stretch in your hamstrings. Your torso should be around 30 to 45 degrees with the floor. Going any lower than this isn't really necessary, and it's just adding unnecessary strain onto your lower back. And then you're going to shift your hips forward and raise your chest up, keeping the spine nice and neutral, driving your hips back into the bar. You should feel a good stretch in your hamstrings, and you should feel your glutes contracting hard at the end of the rep. And you're going to repeat this for 5 to 8 or 6 to 10 reps. So trust me, you want to start off light with these because the soreness from these is something else. You can also do RDLs with dumbbells as well. So you're just holding the dumbbells with a pronated grip, shifting your hips back, keeping your chest up. Remember, for RDLs, if you're looking from the side, the bar path should be straight up and down. There's going to come a time as you get stronger where the strength of your hamstrings and glutes is going to overpower your forearms. When you're training your glutes, hamstrings, you don't want your grip to be a limiting factor. So over time, you might want to adopt a mixed grip. So what that means is one hand is overhand and one hand is underhand as well. This way your grip won't be as much of a limiting factor. You just want to make sure you're keeping your arms as extended as possible throughout the set. You don't want to bend them at all throughout the set. Some extra accessory movements you can do for your quads and hamstrings. You can do your leg extension machine. You're just going to set the machine up so that your ankles are in contact with the pads, and you want to make sure you're starting with your knees in a fully flexed or close to a fully flexed position. Drive your legs up, making sure you're getting a strong contraction at the top, fully squeezing it and lowering it down under control back to the starting position. You can do these for 12 to 15 or 15 to 20 reps. And likewise with leg curls as well, you can either do these lying or seated, and you're going to set yourself up so that your ankles are in contact with the pads, and you want to curl until your knees are fully flexed and lower the weight under control back to the starting position, making sure you're starting with your hamstrings in a stretched position. Finally, we've got the calves. Calves, very simple function, plantar flexion. For example, standing on your tiptoes or just pointing your toes away from you. And you can work them using calf raises. And there's loads of different calf raise variations that you can do to work your calves. For example, you can do them with a Smith machine, holding the weight on your back, a calf press machine, or you can even just do it with free weights using dumbbells, or even on a leg press as well. Just some common form points for all your calf raising movements. You want to start the rep in a position where your calves are fully stretched. So if you're doing any standing calf raise variation, you want to set up a platform so that you can have yourself starting in a fully stretched position. Then you want to push yourself up until you feel a full contraction in your calves, and you want to pause at the top. Then you want to come back down to a fully stretched position and pause at the bottom again. It's very important that you pause at the bottom just so that your tendons don't take over the lift. Also, think about pushing off the balls of your foot. Calves are a weak point for me, and I have been lazy with them, but I'm trying to work on that. Training calves can also help with knee and ankle health, so try your best not to skip it. And calf raises, good rep ranges for these: 12 to 15, 15 to 20. You can even go up to 30 reps with these. Now that concludes the video. I hope you found that useful. Like, subscribe, all that YouTube stuff in a bit.